The movie begins with a young boy named Quinn walking through the bustling streets of London. He arrives at an underground construction site where his mother, Karen, works as a project engineer. After a brief conversation, Karen runs off to handle an urgent issue on the site. Quinn then starts to make his way home, but runs into one of the construction workers along the path. The worker challenges him to enter a dark tunnel, and Quinn readily accepts the dare. He grabs a torchlight and gradually disappears into the darkness as he scours the mysterious passage. Quinn eventually stumbles upon a strange, textured wall-like surface that emits flames upon contact. He continues to explore the surface, unaware that it is actually the rugged scales of a hibernating dragon. Suddenly, the creature spits a ball of fire and reveals its massive form. Quinn hastily rushes out of the tunnel, shaken by the terrifying encounter. He tries to warn everyone about the massive dragon lurking in the shadows, but before they can react, a low, ominous rumbling sound fills the area, and the creature bursts out of the tunnel. The entire area erupts in flames within moments, and Quinn and his mother rush to the elevator to escape. Unfortunately, the dragon then rises through the flames and fiercely attacks the elevator. Quinn, though trembling in fear, survives the attack, but his mother tragically dies in the process. Over the next decade, similar types of ruthless dragons appeared worldwide. These beastly creatures caused widespread havoc and dominated the entire world, leaving the human population on the brink of extinction. The scene then shifts 20 years later, revealing that the dragons have diminished in numbers. However, they have grown more aggressive as they hunt for scarce food resources. Quinn has matured and now leads a group of survivors of the ongoing dragon attacks. Together, they have established an underground refuge at an abandoned castle, where they take shelter from the relentless threat of dragons. These survivors only venture outside when necessary, such as to hunt for food in the fields. One day, Quinn catches his friend Eddie and a few others trying to leave their community. He strongly advises them against it and emphasizes that they will be vulnerable to dragon attacks. Eddie argues that they'll starve to death if they stay back due to the insufficient food supplies. Quinn then explains that the food shortage is temporary until the crops ripen, but going outside now would be dangerous. Despite these warnings, Eddie remains determined to set out in search of food, willing to face the risks beyond their shelter. The next morning, Eddie and a few others discreetly make their way towards the fields. The security guard on the watchtower quickly spots several dragons approaching and immediately sends the distress signal throughout the castle. As the leader, Quinn quickly organizes a team to confront the ferocious dragons. He also learns that Eddie and the others are out in the field, and he sets off on a rescue mission for his people. On the field, Eddie's group spots a dragon approaching from a distance. The creature swoops down and spews balls of flames before they can take cover. This sets the entire plantation on fire, and they quickly realize they are trapped by the flames. Just then, Quinn arrives with his men and orders fires to be set all around the field. This is done in a desperate attempt to hide their presence as the thick smoke clouds the dragon's vision. However, this action also completely destroys their cultivated food supply. Quinn then rushes into the field wearing his protective gear and swiftly guides his people back in his truck. As they drive away, a dragon blocks their path and confronts them head-on. The creature unleashes a devastating stream of fire, catching Eddie's son, who had not yet reached the truck. The group hastily reverses and flees in the opposite direction, desperate to escape to safety. In the aftermath, the entire community mourns the tragic loss of the young boy. Quinn's best friend, Creedy, expresses his frustration and argues that Eddie's decision to leave led to this tragedy. Quinn also shares in the frustration, realizing that Eddie's actions not only caused the death of his own son, but also resulted in the destruction of their entire crop supply. They find themselves struggling with grief as well as the harsh realities of their fragile existence in a world dominated by dragons. The next morning, a convoy of armored vehicles arrives outside the castle. Creedy and the security team approach them, and the leader, Van Zan, steps out of his armored jeep. He requests a meeting with the person in charge. Moments later, Quinn arrives to meet Van Zan, who introduces his group as Dragon Hunters. He reveals that they actively hunt dragons and are on a mission to rid the world of these dangerous creatures. Van Zan inquires if he and his comrades can take shelter in the castle to recover and restore their weapons. Quinn remains skeptical and refuses to let them stay. To prove his claims, Van Zan pulls out a sharp tooth, asserting that he personally defeated a dragon during a hunt and extracted its tooth. He further reveals that the dragon's main weakness is their poor vision during twilight, which he refers to as the magic hour. Seeing the evidence, Quinn agrees to let them stay, but he sternly warns them not to cause any trouble within their community. After arriving, the new group drives their armored vehicles into the castle, while their pilot, Alexandra, flies in on her helicopter. Once they head inside, Quinn instructs Creedy to keep an eye on them and not to let their guard down. Afterward, the security guard monitoring the area spots another dragon soaring through the sky. He immediately sets off the alarms, leading both teams to come together to prepare for another battle. Following this, 3 men are dispatched on a motorbike to reach the location where they intend to hunt the dragons. Their task is to go ahead of the group and install a radar-like device in the fields where the dragons are expected to appear. The device consists of 3 poles arranged in a triangular formation and must be carefully positioned to detect the dragons. 2 of the bikers successfully deploy the device at the designated site. However, the 3rd rider meets with an accident and tragically loses his life before completing the mission. Van Zan tries to communicate with the 3rd team member, but receives no response. Meanwhile, Alex and her team set off on a helicopter to confront the dragon. The creature suddenly appears behind them, but momentarily vanishes into thin air. The team loses sight of it and then drifts aimlessly as the radar device isn't completely deployed. Luckily, Quinn observes the unfolding events and swiftly locates the 3rd biker. He uses his walkie-talkie to inform Van Zan about the tragic outcome. Van Zan then directs him on where to position the 3rd radar, and he manages to place the machine in the correct location. Meanwhile, Alex and her team gain visibility just in time to spot a dragon charging towards them. She then instructs one of her team members to deploy and act as bait. The man grabs the equipment and leaps from the helicopter to draw the dragon's attention. The strategy succeeds as the dragon changes its target and heads towards the man. He then deploys his parachute and safely glides out of the dragon's sight. Soon after, 2 other men from Van Zan's team jump from the helicopter to trap the dragon in a net. But the creature effortlessly breaks free and gobbles up one of the men. The other fails to open his parachute in time and tragically falls to his death. Quinn receives word that the dragon is now heading towards the mountain where he's located. Van Zan then contacts him and proposes that he act as bait in a final attempt to defeat the dragon. Quinn agrees without hesitation and rides toward the beast. At the critical moment, Van Zan manages to shoot the creature and ultimately brings it down. After the battle, Quinn, Alex, and Van Zan gather to discuss their next steps. Alex shares her discovery that all the dragons they've killed so far have been female. She speculates that the dragons reproduce rapidly, relying on a single male to fertilize numerous eggs. At that moment, Van Zan reveals his next mission: to locate and eliminate the male dragon, thereby wiping out the entire species. He proposes they set out to London to kill the dragon, who's believed to be hibernating there. Van Zan then invites Quinn and his team to join forces for this mission. However, Quinn refuses, concerned that hunting the male dragon could provoke the creatures to retaliate, and he cannot risk the lives of his people any further. Frustrated, Van Zan storms off and gathers the men from both teams to rally them for their mission. Outside, Quinn hurries to confront him as Van Zan delivers a passionate speech to stir up the men. Tensions escalate quickly, leading to a heated physical confrontation between the 2 leaders. Van Zan doesn't hesitate to unleash his fury on Quinn. He ruthlessly attacks him until Alex steps in to intervene and separate them. Following this, Van Zan proceeds to set out with his combined forces, consisting of both his own men and those drafted from Quinn's team. They remain determined to hunt down and eliminate the dominant male dragon and end its reign of terror once and for all. Meanwhile, Quinn notices his apprentice Jared preparing to leave with Van Zan. He tries to persuade him to stay behind at the castle due to the risky nature of the mission. However, Jared responds coldly and asserts that Quinn isn't his father. He then joins the army and sets off for London to confront the male dragon. As the night grows dark, Quinn strategically places dragon bones around the castle grounds. It's said that the dragons hate the scent of their deceased kin, and it could deter them from the area for a time. Surprisingly, Jared decides against joining the new army and returns to the castle. Elsewhere, Van Zan and his team reach a nearby town devastated by dragon attacks. Their path is obstructed by ruins, forcing them to stop. Alex, on her helicopter, is tasked with scouting the area for an alternate route. Suddenly, an explosion erupts in the distance, and Van Zan swiftly assembles his men. They raise their weapons, preparing to confront the threat. As expected, the dragons arrive soon after, and Van Zan commands his men to open fire on the approaching creature. The army unleashes their gunfire, but the dragon engulfs them in flames within moments. Realizing that there's no way they can fight back, Van Zan takes cover in his vehicle to shield himself against the fiery attack. Alex returns to the scene and discovers Van Zan as the lone survivor. He confirms that the male dragon was responsible for the attack and fears it may now be heading towards the castle. Afterward, the dragon arrives at the shelter and unleashes its devastating fiery breath. Creedy acts quickly and evacuates everyone to safety in the underground bunker. Quinn frantically rushes back, only to find the shelter in flames. In the midst of the chaos, Creedy becomes trapped in the fire. Quinn desperately tries to rescue him, but Creedy tragically succumbs to the flames. Following the tragic events, Quinn, Van Zan, and Alex make their way towards London to pay the male dragon a visit. They discover an abandoned town overrun by hundreds of female dragons, one of which is devoured by the male dragon out of hunger. Suddenly, the male dragon lets out a roar, causing the female dragons to scatter in fear. The dragon now remains alone and undefended, giving the trio the perfect opportunity to launch an attack. Quinn, who's familiar with London from his childhood, guides his team to a construction site. Van Zan then lays out their strategy. They will divide their forces to lure the dragon into attacking them, and they will shoot an explosive arrow directly into its mouth as it breathes fire. They swiftly take cover and remain prepared to execute their plan when the monstrous creature flies down. Shortly after, the male dragon arrives and spots Quinn on the ground. It targets him with a fiery attack, but he narrowly dodges the assault. Alex then acts as bait and successfully lures the dragon towards the tower according to plan. However, the dragon swiftly redirects its attention to Van Zan, who tries to shoot an explosive arrow into its mouth, but misses. This failed attempt only further infuriates the dragon, and he lets out a thundering roar. Realizing he's out of ammunition, Van Zan resorts to using his battle axe as a weapon. He then charges at the dragon with determination, but the dragon overpowers him and devours him whole. Meanwhile, Quinn realizes he dropped the explosive arrows during the earlier attack. The dragon continues to spew fire all around, while he and Alex manage to find a new hiding spot for cover. Suddenly, Quinn spots the arrows near a truck and sprints towards them, with the dragon following closely behind. In a daring move, Quinn aims the crossbow with precision just as the dragon prepares to breathe fire. He then releases the arrow directly into the dragon's throat, causing a powerful explosion. They watch in relief as the beast finally collapses. The movie comes to an end with Quinn and Alex returning to the castle, determined to create a safe place free from the terror of dragons.